Villains, often seen as the driving forces of conflict in storytelling, serve as pivotal elements that shape narratives and deepen the engagement of readers. A villain is typically defined as a character whose actions, motives, or desires oppose those of the protagonist, hence creating tension and stakes that propel the story forward. These antagonistic forces can manifest in various forms, from complex human adversaries to symbolic representations of societal issues or internal conflicts. Villains are essential as they provide the necessary push and pull within a story, challenging heroes, generating suspense, and ultimately facilitating character development and thematic exploration. The significance of villains in storytelling cannot be understated, especially when crafting antagonists that readers love to hate. A well-developed villain not only serves as a worthy opponent, but also enriches the narrative by embodying relatable fears, flaws, or ideologies that resonate on a personal or societal level. For instance, Shakespeare's Iago from Othello is revered for his intricate manipulation and deceit, which not only drive the plot, but also offer insights into themes of jealousy and betrayal. Similarly, the Joker from Batman comics exemplifies chaos and anarchy, standing in stark contrast to Batman's quest for order and justice, thus heightening the philosophical and existential undertones of the series. The crafting of a compelling villain is supported by opinions from numerous writers and theorists, who emphasize the importance of giving villains depth, motivation, and complexity. This not only makes them more relatable, but also enhances the emotional investment of the audience. However, potential challenges arise in ensuring that villains do not become mere caricatures of evil or fall into cliched tropes, which can weaken their impact and lessen the narrative's originality. There are also alternative viewpoints, suggesting that the best stories do not always require a traditional villain. In some cases, nature, fate, or internal struggles serve as antagonistic forces, engaging readers differently and sometimes more subtly. These approaches can offer fresh perspectives and challenge traditional storytelling structures. The role of villains is intrinsically linked to other storytelling elements, influencing the protagonist's journey, themes, and readers' emotional responses. An effective villain serves as a mirror to the hero, highlighting their strengths, weaknesses, and growth. Understanding the role of villains thus provides a foundation upon which the creation of nuanced and memorable antagonists can be built, ultimately enriching the narrative and deepening reader engagement. Creating a compelling villain involves crafting a character that not only challenges the hero, but also captivates the reader. At its core, a compelling villain possesses defining characteristics that make them memorable, relatable, and intriguing. These characteristics often include a strong motivation, complex personality, and a certain level of charisma or appeal that draws readers in, even as they root for the hero's success. The significance of defining these characteristics lies in their ability to transform a villain from a mere obstacle into a multi-dimensional character that adds depth and tension to the narrative. When a villain is more than just evil for the sake of evil, they become a vital component of the storytelling experience, driving the plot and forcing the protagonist to evolve. Two exemplary illustrations can be found in literature and film. Consider the character of Thanos from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. His motivation to bring balance to the universe by eradicating half of its population is grounded in a twisted sense of logic and responsibility. His complex worldview makes him more than a one-dimensional villain, provoking reflection on morality and sacrifice. Similarly, in the realm of literature, we have Hannibal Lecter from Thomas Harris's novels. Lecter's intelligence, sophistication, and psychological depth make him fascinating to readers. Despite his gruesome actions, his character challenges readers to contemplate the darker aspects of human nature. Supporting this notion, many writers and critics argue that a well-crafted villain can elevate a story. Stephen King, for instance, has emphasized the importance of villains, who are believable and have personal stakes that resonate with readers. This perspective underscores the craft of villainy, suggesting that a binary depiction of good versus evil is often less compelling than exploring moral ambiguity. However, crafting such villains is not without its challenges. Some may argue that giving villains too much depth or relatability risks glamorizing negative behavior or diluting the narrative's moral clarity. Additionally, there's the potential pitfall of overshadowing the hero, leading to a story where the villain becomes more intriguing than the protagonist. Ultimately, defining the characteristics of a compelling villain influences other aspects of storytelling by deepening the hero's journey and enhancing the thematic exploration of the narrative. A well-rounded villain not only enriches the story but also engages readers in a complex moral dialogue, ensuring that the antagonist is someone they love to hate. Understanding the villain's motivation and backstory is pivotal in crafting compelling antagonists that resonate with readers. At its core, this concept revolves around delving into the reasons behind a villain's actions, what drives them to oppose the protagonist, and exploring their history to provide depth and relatability. A well-developed motivation and backstory humanize the villain, transforming them from a mere obstacle into a fully realized character that captivates and elicits complex emotions from the audience. The significance of understanding a villain's motivation lies in its power to create emotional engagement. When readers comprehend why a villain behaves a certain way, they are more likely to invest emotionally in the story. This understanding can evoke a mix of empathy, anger, or even reluctant admiration, making the narrative more dynamic and multidimensional. A villain with a well-crafted backstory also serves to challenge the protagonist in a more personal and profound manner, elevating the stakes of the conflict. Consider the example of Darth Vader from Star Wars. His transformation from the hopeful Anakin Skywalker to the dark Sith Lord is rooted in personal loss, betrayal, and the desire for power. These motivations provide context to his actions, allowing audiences to feel a connection beyond his malevolent exterior. Another example is Killmonger in Black Panther. His motivations are deeply tied to his personal history of loss and a sense of injustice, making his conflict with T'Challa not just a battle for the throne, but a confrontation of ideologies, adding depth to the story's themes. Many authors and screenwriters advocate for a well-developed villain backstory, arguing it creates richer narratives and more memorable stories. However, some challenges exist in striking a balance between crafting a sympathetic backstory and maintaining the villain's essential menace. There is a potential controversy in making villains too relatable, which can blur the moral lines of the story or inadvertently undermine the protagonist's journey. Understanding a villain's motivation and backstory profoundly influences other aspects of creating the perfect villain. It impacts the plot's progression, shapes the dynamic between antagonist and protagonist, and enriches the thematic exploration of the narrative. As writers develop this aspect, they provide themselves with the tools to craft villains that are not only adversaries to be overcome, but also complex characters that readers love to hate, ensuring that their stories remain intriguing and impactful. Building complexity into your villain means creating characters that are multidimensional, possessing depth, and a range of emotions and motivations rather than being mere caricatures of evil. This involves giving your antagonist a backstory, understandable motivations, and sometimes even qualities that the audience might find relatable or sympathetic. The importance of this point in creating the perfect villain is crucial, as readers are not only more engaged by antagonists who feel real and human, but they are also more likely to be emotionally invested in the story. A well-crafted, complex villain can challenge the protagonist in meaningful ways, forcing them to grow and evolve, which makes for a more compelling narrative. Take, for example, the villain Thanos from the Avengers series. Thanos is not merely bent on destruction for destruction's sake. He believes that by eliminating half of the universe's population, he is addressing the problem of overpopulation and scarcity. His motivations, while extreme, are rooted in a twisted sense of altruism. Another example is Walter White from Breaking Bad. Walter starts as a sympathetic character, a high school teacher diagnosed with terminal cancer who turns to cooking methamphetamine to secure his family's financial future. As his journey progresses, his descent into villainy becomes a captivating exploration of morality and power. Both characters demonstrate that complexity can make villains unforgettable. Opinions supporting the creation of complex villains highlight how such characters can reflect real human conflicts, making stories more intellectually and emotionally engaging. Readers and viewers often appreciate when a villain is not easily categorized as simply bad, but rather operates in shades of grey, reflecting the complexities of real life. However, the challenge in building complexity in villains is avoiding confusion or sympathy for their negative actions, potentially muddling the story's moral clarity. Some might argue that not all stories benefit from a morally grey antagonist. Certain narratives thrive on the simplicity of clear-cut good versus evil to convey specific messages or themes. The concept of building complexity in villains directly influences other elements of story creation, such as plot development and character arcs. A well-rounded villain can serve as a formidable and thought-provoking counterpart to the protagonist, driving the story forward by challenging the hero's beliefs, decisions, and growth. Ultimately, crafting the perfect villain involves balancing complexity with clarity to maintain engagement while ensuring the narrative's purpose remains intact.